Well, a good place to start when designing your brochure is to actually go into the Brightspace shell, go into the content area where I have the templates uploaded. So I have an outside template for your page 1 within InDesign, and I have your page 2 template here. So we're just going to push download on these two things, get those downloaded. So it'll open it up. We'll kind of go over those in just a minute. Okay, and so they're a little different. They're basically the same thing, except for this one just tells you on the outside, this is the front panel. This is actually kind of a faded looking line, so it's sort of hard to see, but it's very similar to this. It's just that on the outside, this is the front of the brochure, and then this is the back, and then this is that inside page that kind of folds in. And let me show you what I'm talking about. A good place that has some decent free templates that you can use is Printing Center USA. They're out of Great Falls. I've actually ordered a lot of brochures through them, and they have like a handy little area where you can order your brochures. But anyway, we're actually getting we're designing a trifold brochure in an 8.5 by 11 size. And so as you can see, this is the front panel here, and then there's the back panel. It's, you know, on the other side, if you can try to think of this in 3D. And this is that inside page that's folding in. So if we look at our template again for the outside page 1 of the design, the front will be here, the back is here, and then this is that kind of that's inside folded page on the trifold brochure. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I am going to be recreating this design here that I did for Havertrails. I'm not going to make the same exact brochure that you guys are going to be making, because I'm afraid if I do that, you guys are just going to end up kind of doing what I'm doing, and I kind of just want you guys to try and do your own thing as far as design goes. So basically the inside of page number 2, if I open this up, I'm on page 2 right now. This is all just opens up into one big spread. And if I push W, you can see where I actually put my guides to help me realize, okay, this is the first panel here, this is the second panel here, this is the third panel here on the inside of the brochure on page 2. The outside of the brochure will be on page 1, and the front panel, is here off to the far left. The back panel is here in the middle, and that inside folded page is here. So one thing we can do, we'll just start our new document. So maybe I'm just going to close out of this so that it's kind of looking like I'm starting from scratch. One thing you might want to do before you start anything is do InDesign, or come up here and go to InDesign Preferences. If you're on a PC, it's probably under Edit Preferences, and then Units and Increments, and just make sure that you're in inches here. And then push OK. And then let's do Create New is fine. You can also do File New, whichever way you want to do it. We can go to Print and then just go to Letter, which is 8.5 by 11, but we want the orientation to be landscape. We don't want this facing pages to be checked. We want 2 pages here. And then we want to open up this bleed. Don't worry about margins, but we want to open up the bleed and slug area. Make sure that this thing is, if it's unchecked, it'll look like this. Make sure that this is actually highlighted and linked. And then just click on this first thing here, this little arrow underneath the top. So this is the bleed around the top, the bottom, left and right, and we want 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And this is 1/8 of an inch and a decimal. So if you get all those settings in there, you should be good to go. So just push Create. Okay, so we have a 2-page document. If your pages aren't open, they're over here, off to the right. There's 1 and 2. So page 1 will be the outside of our brochure. So let's bring in that outside template. So we'll do a file place to bring that in. And it should be in it's in my downloads. So we're doing the outside. So page 1, it's labeled with page 1 on it. So let's just bring this in. And we just want to take it and line it up. I'm actually lining up the blue edge of this, and don't grab it in the middle because you'll get this hand and it'll start getting confusing. Just grab it off of this circle. So we want to line up this blue line with this red line, basically. So make sure that you push W so that you can actually see your bleed line, this red line here, and then just line it up. It should pop into place pretty easily. You can Command plus or Control plus on a PC and kind of zoom in and make sure that it's looking like it's lining up pretty well with your bleed line, and that looks pretty good. So this is, the brochure template is actually the size of the bleed of the brochure with the bleed because the template includes a bleed. And then this is the safe zone. So anything outside of this, like text or important graphics, should not be past. So if I push W, we can see the actual trimmed size of the 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So don't put anything in this area around the edge of your whole brochure. It will run all the way around the edge. So don't put any important graphics or anything in there that is important, basically. And honestly, you shouldn't put anything that close to the edge anyway because it's a design flaw. You start getting tension points. So let's just select this and push Command L, and that will actually lock it if you, sorry, I don't think I did that right. Command L, and that will actually lock it. So if you actually try to move this template around on this page, if we open our pages up, we're on page 1. So if I try to move this around, it won't work because I have it locked. I think I might have done that. I think you can do unlock or lock also underneath object, but I like to do Command L because it's fast. So if we go into page number 2, we can just click in the Pages panel, make sure that this panel is expanded, and double click on page 2 to get to page 2. Do a file place, and we'll bring in that second template, which is the inside of the brochure, which is a little bit easier to understand, honestly, because it doesn't have that confusing mailing label on it and stuff. I mean, and also like on the inside of the brochure, when you open it completely up, it's all just one big spread. Of course, it has different panels here because these are the fold lines. These yellow lines are the fold lines. If we push W again in here, we can see, basically the size of the page. Just make sure that you're lining up your blue line, not grabbing it from here, and bringing it in and lining it up well with that red bleed line. And then to push W so that you can really get a good look at what your brochure is going to look like. So one thing I'm going to have you do right away, open up your pages, go to page 1, do Object, Unlock All on Spread. And let's just delete this one because I think that we're just going to use this one for now. Command C from page 2, go to page 1 and do Command V. And just make sure it's lining up again, because it's actually a little easier to use this one because it doesn't have that confusing mailing label on it. Just remember on page 1 that this is the front panel, this is the back panel, and this is that folded inside panel on the trifold brochure. We can do a Command L or Object Lock on both pages to make sure, Command L, that those are secured down. And this is a great place to kind of start designing from.